Hello, my friends. Today it seems that before the negotiations, the Ukrainian forces have once again launched an offensive on Russian territory. So let's start right away with the Kursk direction. Russian sources are already in panic, reporting that the Ukrainian forces have advanced significantly with 12 pieces of equipment entered the settlement of Ulanok, according to their data. Here is what the Russians are saying. The Ukrainian forces launched an attack southeast of Sudzha, and the Russian armed forces are now burning the equipment. From occupied Sudzha towards the southeastern outskirts, Cherkasskaya Konopelka, Fanasiyevka, and Ulanok, the Ukrainians advanced in a column for a counteroffensive, reports Archangel of the Special Forces. The movement was detected by Russian intelligence, and artillery immediately responded to the Ukrainian forces' maneuvers. At the same time, war correspondents suggest that this latest suicidal attack by the Ukrainians may actually be a diversionary strike. So far, several Ukrainian vehicles have reportedly been destroyed. Additionally, late last night, Russian sources were warning of a new wave of attacks overnight. Ukrainian movements are being detected and forces are building up. They may attempt something during the night or early morning. Our guys are in for a sleepless night, military channels report. Overall, the Ukrainian forces have been ordered to move forward to put Russia in the worst possible position ahead of the negotiations. At the same time, reports are emerging that in the Kharkiv region, the Ukrainian forces have received a new signal. This suggests that an offensive into Russian territory might begin here as well. In fact, we are already seeing fighting on Russian soil, and this could be just the beginning. However, Russian forces continue the attacks near Vovchansk, though there have been no changes along the front line in this area. Meanwhile, Zelensky has stated that Russian territory must feel the war.
Our active operations on Russian territory, we have brought the war back home to Russia, and that is where they must feel what war is like. And they do. Today, I awarded participants of the Kursk operation 2 heroes of Ukraine, and also presented crosses of combat merit and orders of Ukraine. I want to thank every Ukrainian soldier, all our units involved in Kursk, who have shown the world that even with limited resources, we can act actively, unexpectedly, and effectively.
Meanwhile, the head of the Russian State Duma committee suggested that now, when they've been banned, is the right time to unite their parliament with Belarus.
For example, during Yeltsin's time, there was talk that Lukashenko could be elected president of Russia and unite with Belarus. But everything changes. Now, in conditions where the whole world is trying to bend us, to limit us in every possible way, it's the perfect time to return to the creation of a union parliament.
The circus continues. At the same time, Zelensky openly stated that he's ready for direct negotiations with Putin.
Both the United States, President Trump, and European Union countries believe that diplomacy is impossible without Russia, without Putin. And so, I said, I'm ready. If we have a clear understanding of how this war will end for us, we are ready for diplomacy, and I have no problem with that. The situation regarding the decree's cancellation, that's just a Russian narrative. They will constantly look for excuses not to meet. I said this frankly, they will find one reason or another. If we really want to end the war, if we truly want peace, then those reasons are secondary. Everything else can be resolved, I am sure of that. But the problem is, I think he's actually afraid to talk to me about ending the war. I don't know why. He's supposedly an adult, yet he's afraid to be alone with another person without his entourage. Still, I believe Trump can force him to end this war.
Zelensky also stated that the plan to end the war hasn't yet been finalized.
Do you have a vision of what this plan should look like? And do you intend to discuss and coordinate its details with the American side? Thank you.
Yes, I have a vision. Thank you for the question. We already have a clear understanding, and we have discussed specific points with the American side. Even before President Trump's inauguration, we had the opportunity to hear each other and discuss key priorities, issues where there can be no compromises from the Ukrainian people. So, he knows our position, and he knows that there are plans. I am confident that there is no official plan yet. What has appeared in various publications, I am sure it is not Trump's official plan because our teams will be working together. There can't be a plan from just one side, even from the US. You heard that something supposedly came from Mr. Kellogg, but then he clarified that it wasn't from him, that it was external information. So, there will be a lot of things, both leaks and misinformation. Some of it may align with reality, but for the most part, I am sure it won't. We must wait for our official negotiations and official results.
Since the negotiation process is only beginning and the conditions are still being determined, this means the war will certainly continue for at least the next month. Meanwhile, frontline activity remains at its peak, starting with the Pokrovsk direction. Russian forces have once again expanded their controlled territory along their highway and captured Baranivka. Fighting is now ongoing for Tarasivka with assaults on Yelizavetivka, the village of Promень, and battles in the areas of Zvirove and Udachne. Additionally, heavy shelling continues across the front line. In the Kurakhove direction, the situation continues to deteriorate. Russian forces have significantly pushed forward, reducing the distance between the front lines to just 1 kilometer 600 meters. Soldiers on the ground describe the situation as follows. In Andriivka, stabilization efforts by the defense forces began at the last possible moment before disaster struck. The Russians were pushed back slightly, but offensives from both sides are ongoing. Unfortunately, as usual, fires are put out at the last moment when the phrase "the situation is under control" almost turns into something much worse. It's hard to predict what comes next, as the Russians have enough strength to capture the village. Overall, as expected, nothing has changed, and even Drapati hasn't yet managed to turn the tide in this sector. Meanwhile, near Velika Novosilka, Russian forces continue the assaults on Novopil and conduct shelling, but there have been no territorial changes in the past 24 hours. In the Zaporizhia direction, Russian forces continue shelling without launching offensive actions. For now, activity has decreased and there are no changes along the front line. In the Kherson direction, Russian troops are shelling the right bank of the Dnipro, but no new attacks have been recorded and the situation remains unchanged. Now, moving to the Toretsk direction, activity remains high. Russian forces are storming Sherbinivka and pushing towards the outskirts of Toretsk. Attacks on Deliivka continue along with shelling of Katerinivka. Despite ongoing battles, no territorial changes have been recorded in the past day. In the Chasiv Yar direction, Russian troops continue the assaults in the central part of the city and are also advancing towards Stupochki. Soldiers on the ground describe the situation as follows. Fighting is ongoing in the southern part of the city near the Shevchenko district and workshop number 2. The Russians have also intensified actions along the highway leading to Konstantinivka and are making further advances toward Stupochki. They are regrouping and building up forces. North of the city, we are still holding onto the outer streets, though this area is effectively a gray zone. The battles around the high-rise buildings continue and Russian infantry is making progress. We are starting to experience supply issues. The pressure is intense, our troops are doing everything to hold the line. But Russian artillery, drones, and snipers are making it extremely difficult. Extreme caution is required. In the Siversk direction. Activity has increased again. Russian forces are advancing through the fields toward Siversk, storming Verkhnyo-Kamensk, and attempting to break through near Spirne. No territorial changes have been recorded in the past day, but the fighting continues. In the Liman direction, Russian forces are assaulting Novolyubivka, pushing towards the Kolodezi area, and attacking Yampolivka and Zarichne. It seems that after a brief lull, Russian forces have brought in reinforcements and are attempting to advance further towards Liman. As of now, no changes have been recorded, but the battles remain ongoing. In the Borova direction, Russian forces are attacking Boguslavka, Nova Kruhlyakivka, Zelený High, and Kopanki. Further south, they are storming Novoyegorivka and attempting to break through toward Grekivka. However, Ukrainian forces continue to hold the defense and no territorial changes have been recorded. In the Kupiansk direction, battles for Petropavlivka persist and Russian troops are pushing from Pishane. However, they haven't managed to advance closer to Kupiansk as Ukrainian forces successfully repel all attacks. Meanwhile, no new assaults have been reported in the Dvorichne area, where Russian forces are instead consolidating their newly occupied positions. Meanwhile, despite Zelensky's statements about the possible return of nuclear weapons to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg dismissed this as unrealistic. The probability of them getting their nuclear weapons back is somewhere between minimal and zero. Let's be honest, we know that's not going to happen, he said in an interview with Fox News. Clearly, there are no plans to significantly strengthen Ukraine's military capabilities at this time. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.